My name is Dr. Jamie Cohen, and I am technically a memeticist. And I'm here with Josh Chapdelaine and Civic Hall, Evelyn and Shanika. And we're here together to do a presentation on meme literacies. And Josh and I represent Digital Void. And what our job is to bring complex digital ideas to the public and kind of allow us to cross that void, to get us into that space where we have a common understanding and increase humanity more than anything else. So our real goal with this presentation is to expand upon our first part of our meme literacies workshop. So the beginning of this workshop is going to be a bit about what we covered last time. But first, I need to forefront this with a little bit about why we're doing meme literacies, why you see Pepe the Frog as our icon there, and what this is going to actually do. And I think this is important because we forefront this with Pepe's eyeballs looking at us right there. And for those of you who know Pepe, it might give you a visceral reaction to what the connotation means when you see an image or iconography, icons like Pepe. And when you see that, you might get this immediate reaction as to what it means already. The reason we're doing that is because one of the things about Pepe the Frog is we'd like to depower its connotations with the far right. And in order to do that, we have to kind of engage with the icon. And at the end of this talk, we're actually going to show you a new film that's coming out about Pepe the Frog that's intent is to do that. The intent of this lecture is to talk about the cultural studies of memes in difference to the first one, which is more about visual media and visual understanding. We're going to be speaking a little bit more about cultural understanding. And when I say that, when I say the word cultural studies, many times people assume cultural studies is the study of artifacts or culture itself, and that's archaeology, which is really good. We're going to be speaking a fair amount of archaeology. My background is a media archaeologist, and previous to that, I was an anthropologist, archaeologist. I didn't do the actual physical digging, but I worked in anthropological fields. And we're going to be using media archaeological method to excavate some of these memes. Now, when I talk about culture, though, we're talking about power. And that's really important for us to understand at the forefront of this, because a lot of this is understanding who controls the quote narrative inside of this. And what that means is the overall way we appropriately discuss and have discourse and communication with one another for an appropriate way of moving worlds forward. And so a lot of understanding memes is to understand what happens when we have reductionism, which is taking large complex ideas and mashing them down into very easy portable images, but also to unpack those meanings because they mean more to us than I think most people actually understand. So with that, here's what we're going to be covering in today's lecture. We're going to be covering the excavation of meme meanings. That's today's piece. So first, I'm going to recap part one. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to explain how the Doge and the Karen memes are more similar than we think, and how formats, the idea of a meme format, can be repurposed for pretty much anything. Then I'm going to go into the methods. We're going to be using a method of excavation that I call meme archaeology, which isn't a real term, just so you know, I made that up. And that type of meme archaeology is an extension of media archaeology, which is the excavation of digital and media objects. And so we're going to be doing that. Then we're going to go into three case studies in reality, that are going to be intense. And I'm just going to forefront this by explaining that I'm not just going to be explaining them, but I'm explaining the elements of them that are more nuanced and metaphorical than anything else. So you get a sense of how memes can operate, do operate, and have operated. And these are the TikTok August 27th recent meme and the Wayfair. I'm just saying this right up front. Wayfair is not selling children, but the Wayfair meme that came out the other day. And then we're going to be talking about memes and civic action, the efficacy, care, and awareness that comes with it. We'll then end that with a 30-minute discussion Q&A where you can pretty much ask anything you want about digital cultures, and I'll be glad to talk about it. So first, meme literacies are cultural literacies. I think it's really important for us to understand that, because meme literacies and cultural literacies are often the idea of how culture is created into a digital space. How do we convert culture? How do you do that? How do you take something that affects you in a physical space, culture being the way you interact with language, with symbology, with friends, with actions, and how do you convert that into something that's shareable and digital? My first two examples are similar in a way that you won't get off the bat. In our very first lecture, we talked about how the Doge meme and how the Doge meme came to be. The Doge meme's etymology, how it became Doge, is similar to the Karen etymology, but the Karen etymology is a bit different than the Doge etymology. The Karen etymology actually has cultural underpinnings that occur in real life, in physical spaces, where Doge is pretty much just a shareable. It comes from two different elemental times that I think are really important for us in the current moment. And I mean this in the very current moment. I mean this in the moment of we're in the center of a pandemic, and I'm saying center because that's my prayer, is that we're in the center, but I have obviously cynical views on that. And we're also in this moment of racial understanding and a reckoning and accountability that's taking place. And these things are social pressures that, as we always say, the arc of history bends towards justice. It doesn't, notice it bends, it doesn't just snap to that. It is a course of time that has to do that. And doing that, we have to acknowledge the struggles that take place with this. So I'm going to be excavating these memes in a way that kind of diagnoses them differently than you would as a meme literacy person. You would actually see how they're made. So on that note, here we go again. And this is a meme taken from GTA 4, which is always used whenever something happens. So I use this to explain that Doge and Karen are the same setup. So last time we talked about Doge. So to give you a bit of a briefer, Doge meme is so prolific and so pronounced on the web that if you were to type just the word Doge into your Google search options, you would only have the results of this dog, this same face, the same look over and over again that occupies the majority of the feed. In reality, it overwrote history. The history that it overwrote is very literally overwritten on this image, is the history of the Doge. The Doge is a being, a human Venetian treasurer that basically held power for nearly 800 years. And so 800 years of power can be overwritten by basically a meme that comes from the 2010s. And the Doges, the term Doge, now has to be qualified as Venetian Doge. So on one hand, that helps us. That helps us qualify certain terminologies that you can't find certain Doges without qualifying them. On the other hand, the term Doge is not in relation to this, but in relation to the actual human being. Oh, I've got a little marker. I don't need that marker. That's cool though. The etymological recap. How did Doge happen? So Doge occurred by this blog that was posted in 2009 by a Japanese man who's taking photos of his dog. And the Doge there in the second, actually it's the fourth picture down, is the image that we recognize as the Doge meme. Everything has an origin when we have memes. There's always a way of excavating it from its origin. So I'm actually going to show you Doge's origin story. So this is the Doge origin story, and please let me know. I think you'll be able to hear this through the screen. So this is the original video from 2005.
Projection analysis spreadsheets and still no sign of... What is up, my dog? Oh, I am not your dog. Wonderman, you quack me up. Quack me up. That's why you're my D-O-G-E. Your Doge? What are you talking about?
That earworm, that bit from 2005 gets in your head. It gets in your head so much so that somebody watched that. Now, Homestar Runner is a piece of internet culture that I think, you should look up because it's really one of the first web series ever made. And what's also more important about it being a web series is that it was a long-running web series. It ran from 2000 to 2006 or 7, eventually became a puppet-based show. But this misspelling and this phrase, Doge, became part of somebody's vocabulary. In other words, somewhere out there, somebody heard the term Doge or saw a dog and always said, look at this Doge. In 2009, this image that you see here on the right is not the original, but in 2009, somebody on Reddit posted this dog and the commenter wrote, LMBO, laughing my butt off, look at this effing Doge. That moment, that exact moment merged the word Doge with this image, and from there forward, that was Doge. That is how fragile history is. So that was what we talked about in the first Meme Literacies workshop. We talked about how we have the control. We as internet participants, we as people who have the ability to communicate via the web and create media and be, in terms of participants, we're also creators. We have the ability to overwrite previous histories, and we also have that power to do so. And we often take that power for granted, but it is really intense. Because we as humans always had that ability. And the first one, we talked about something known as pareidolia, which is the ability to see faces in inanimate objects. And that's a survival instinct. That's part of who we are as people. Sometimes when we see an inanimate object that looks like a face, we see a face in it. We make it personified. The reason we do that biologically is kind of the way that we interact with danger. So when you see something dangerous, it's probably better for your fight or flight systems to see a face and run away than it is to not see that face and get eaten. So it's a really, really old piece of our brain, which is why Richard Dawkins kind of wrote about the idea that the meme itself is a selfish gene. It's something in us. These two memes are memes you can hear, or at least some of you can hear. I can hear them both. And these are memes that become part of your earworms that allow you to actually experience them over and over again because they're so mimetic and so part of our understanding that they become actually part of our being. And I don't think I'm going to sing the Smash Mouth song down in the lower right, but I think you could hear it. And then if you haven't seen the Cardi B saying coronavirus, once you hear it, you will always hear her saying it inside your head. And so there's Homer, of course, thinking it. Now, some of you have the ability to go further than that. Some of us, statistically, I think it's 70% of us can hear that GIF. I can personally hear it. If I look at it long enough, it appears as a thud in my head. It's a weird thudding noise. And that tells you that the image itself, whether containing sound or not, actually carries the ability to create sound inside your own head. And that alone, if you want to spend enough time thinking about it, will set you off on this amazing thought process of how intense we are with experience. That means, and I mean, I don't think I have to tell you this, but this shouldn't make your enjoyment of the outdoors even more. Like just looking at trees or experiencing rustling or listening, just deeply listening to things. We have such more immense powers out of our body that we don't just see from our eyes, we don't just hear from our ears. That is how much of a person we are in these things. Memes act as reductionism, but they get in your head. The image, the Pepsi guy on the right is one of those you can't unsee type of images. So once you've seen that, it is actually very difficult to look at Pepsi logos again and actually not interact with that again. So it's a, you know, that's your new image thing. And that brings us back to Karen. So why Karen? Why now? What's going on with this? This meme has become very, very rapid into our media discourse. And this discourse is happening because of very interesting social conditions and the exposure of Karen as volume. These are three, I took the screen grab yesterday, but this is in the past 24 hours from yesterday, so you can see many of them. I'm actually featured in this one, the bottom one, the why is the name Karen being used as an insult? I was on Inside Edition and USA Today speaking about this, although I do believe they took the wrong parts of my information for that. And so no offense to the producers of that show, it's just that I was trying to give a more meme literacy aspect to it, and they were looking for more along the lines of what is a Karen? And to explain a Karen, which I'm gonna do now, is to kind of go a little bit more in depth with what the meaning is behind this specific meme. Because this specific meme has an etymology, but it also has a cultural meaning in our current, literal current purposes that we have to pay attention to. And if you're not paying attention to them, then you're simply writing them off as memes. You're reducing them down to meaninglessness. And that is not how things should be with this. So first, it started somewhere. I'm going to give you the origin first and the cultural attachment second. Origins matter, but not as much as content. The context matters. So the origin of this is actually from a Dane Cook stand-up back in 2005. Another earworm. I wonder why 2005 gave birth to so many odd new words. Something to look into. Maybe it was the first year of YouTube. Maybe YouTube didn't do anything. The stand-ups from later in that year. I don't know. Dane Cook mentioned that there's always one person in every group that has a Karen. It's a throwaway bit. Honestly, there's no real meaning to it. He could have picked any type of name, but that's the name he chose to make that bit work. This in 2014, years later, during the era of starter pack memes. So starter pack memes were the type of memes that were like 4 images that kind of gave you a sense of whatever the subject is. I think the dad version of that was like short jeans, barbecue shoes, or like white New Balance and like a spatula or something like that. And that was the dad starter pack. And this is the Can I Speak to the Manager starter pack? And the haircut is really important here. The haircut was made popular by Kate Gosselin. And the haircut was made popular by it was actually a fairly popular haircut for almost a decade in the Midwest and everywhere. And it's still popular to this day, but Kate Gosselin really brought it to the forefront. Kate Gosselin appeared as a figure, kind of like a very controversial type of figure, because not only her role in John and Kate plus 8, but the 10-year-long custody battle that ensued after that fact. And there's no good guys in that story, and it's very unfortunate for the children. But that haircut then became something that was popularized and mimicable. People wanted to wear it. That image became something that was identifiable with a type of person or a type of woman that felt social pressure to react. And that social pressure to react was in the terms of, can I speak to your manager? And in doing that, it became identifiable mimetically as an action. But that also reduces its power. It reduces its unfortunate, serious nature of that, because the meme is funny, but there's things that aren't funny. There's a lot of things that aren't funny about this subject in any way. So this is a very important discussion to have when we talk about memes. And I need you to frame this out at the beginning of this discussion, because this is the beginning of what we're going to be talking about for the entire length of this meme literacies discussion for the next 40 or so minutes. We're going to be talking about what it means to the culture at large and what we're eliding or removing from the discourse and why we shouldn't be doing that. Because a lot of these things make fun of or make transportable bigger issues. The term here is important because we could actually see Melody Cooper, Christian Cooper's wife, I believe, say, oh, when Karens take a walk with their dogs off leash in the famous Bramble in New York Central Park, where it's clearly posted on signs that dogs must be leashed at all times. Oh, her brother of Christian Cooper, sorry. Like my brother, an avid birder politely asked her to put her on her leash. Now, I won't burden you with the video, but the video is shocking. The video is quite a video that makes you cringe. It's one of those videos that when you watch it, you're just like, I can't actually believe that that happened. Amy Cooper, who is deemed a Karen from Melody here, uses her phone as a weapon. So she may, I can't make an obvious judgment as to whether she knew her power in that sense of situation, but the privilege of not knowing that power is also using that power. In other words, when Christian Cooper had told her to keep the dog on the leash, her reaction was, when she was being recorded, she felt an existential stressor. And the existential stressor is that she feels like she's being caught in the act of something. But her action and her response wasn't appropriate because she then used her phone to call the police. Now, whether she knew or not the consequences of that is beyond of what we would know if that's what she meant. But we do know that because we're aware of the world around us enough to know that when you call the police on a Black man, it often leads to violence, or could lead to violence. I don't want to say often, but it could lead to violence. But that violence is heavily sided towards the harming of Black men than it is to white women. And that type of thing is something that we don't think about because the reduction to Karen just makes it, oh, look at this bad behavior, rather than saying there's so much more nuance to this. There's so much more that we could take from this and understand. So we use, in my study of memes, we use an archaeological approach that combines artifacts, in this case memes, and temporal culture, things that are going on at the specific moment. Are there more events like this happening than before? I would say no, maybe a few more. I think racism is a bit on the rise. I don't have a statistical background to just give you the answer to that at this minute, but I definitely know that recording of these incidents is going up. And we're in a time where we're attempting accountability and the act of trying to capture these things and bring justice. And the act of bringing social justice is the capturing of those events. So we do know that the recording is going up. That creates an existential stressor for those who've never been in that situation. So people who have behaved badly have probably behaved badly many times, but when you're in the act of being held accountable for poor behavior, it moves you to the meme. It moves you to that physical space. So that's a platitudinal statement, but you have to keep in mind that's the archaeological layering that we're going to be going through in this talk that's going to explain that every meme has not only a cultural artifact, but has a outward real life artifact as well. It's not just the meme itself, it's part of an event that's occurring in real time that is part of the stressor. It's going to take a really quick turn to an actual event. This happened in literally this. I'm going to show you an event that was here and gone in one day, but I'm going to show you why meme archaeologists and why meme literacies are important in the nature. This is in the same framework of what I'm about to show. So a couple of weeks ago, June 17th, Team Trump posted ads to Facebook. Now, people who have dev accounts on Facebook can actually see all the ads being posted. And the Team Trump used a campaign icon as an anti-Antifa ad that they posted with a downward facing or an inverted triangle, a red triangle. And those of us who are tuned into dog whistling, immediately it went off. So we talked about dog whistles in the first meme literacy one. Dog whistling, or the act of making a dog whistle meme, is creating a meme that isn't heard by everyone. It is heard by specific audiences who either get energized by that, they're like, yeah, let's take action, or they are feel some sort of camaraderie or some ability to connect with the other users because they get the joke and no one else does. It's not the same as trolling. I explained that in the previous one, is that trolling itself is done for the act of chaos. It is usually done for the act of derailing or changing conversations into something that wouldn't traditionally be on the line of the current narrative or wherever the conversation is going. So a dog whistle is beyond that. A dog whistle contains embedded ideology with it. So I'm going to debunk this really quickly, which Brandy Zadrovny, you could actually see, did that day. So Brandy Zadrovny immediately contacted them and said, Trump campaign runs ads marking once used by Nazis to designate political prisoners. So Trump War Room, Brad Parscale, responded, this is an emoji. It's widely used by Antifa. It was used in an ad about Antifa. So Brandy Zadrovny found out that the image was actually created the day before on a Spanish website, Spain, to sell a t-shirt. So that's a t-shirt design made on a Spanish website literally the day before. So what does that mean? Like, do we know? Do we know that if Brad Parscale really intended on creating an upside down triangle as a way of dog whistling? Is it simply a misunderstanding of images? Either way, what it does is it creates the bait necessary for us to interact with potentially graphically damaging issues. But it's also because this image itself, the icon of the upside down triangle, is historical. It is a long historical image that contains power. And again, this talk is about memes and power. Meme literacies have power. During the Holocaust, political prisoners were held with the upside down triangle to designate them as a certain type of prisoner. In the 1970s, in 1978, you could see the never again bite back symbology when the pink triangle was reclaimed. And you can see at the bottom, the pink triangle was used to identify the thousands of gay people who died in concentration camps in Nazi Germany. In reclaiming that, you can depower that type of iconography and create the way of empowering people who were there. It's similar to the reclaiming of different words that go to you that make you empowered to have them back. That's the reclamation that's necessary. And what I think is important to recognize here is that how much the bait was taken. Because what it did is it derailed the discourse. It changed the way that we're going to have the discussion. Because these types of things are part of the, however you think about what's going on, you need to know that no matter what, a lot of the way that the Trump campaign operates is very much knowing full well how to troll, how to dog whistle. It's part of the plan. And that part of the plan helps them raise awareness for their own campaign, but also kind of like is designed to instigate to anger and to create some sort of reactionary movement. So it's within and of that type of thing. And we could talk about that again in the Q&A at the end, but I want to show you the outcome of this. I don't know what was the actual intent. I don't know what was supposed to happen as a result of using the upside down triangle, but I think the participation of the debunking changes the way things work. So when I use the term upside down triangle, when I was doing research on my article that I wrote about it, half of the images showed the red one and half of them showed the pink one. Now you can actually see when I type upside down triangle, you see the posts from the articles that show you that they're the triangles used from the campaign. So either way, it did what the Doge meme did. It overwrote a previous narrative. It overwrote what we would be. Now, I should have probably signed out here. You can see my icon there. And that means that my algorithm itself might be skewing some of these results. But it does show that no matter what happens is that we can see this type of thing infuses or becomes part of our visual discourse. And since we communicate via visuals, this type of power is quite incredible. Times have changed. This is a decade, all right? A decade has changed with memes. And I've been writing about memes since 2010. Back when I had as I said this in the last one, I had a naive view that we were going to be entering a utopian-esque, the internet's going to make everything better worldview, which obviously I've become far more cynical and realistic since then. And I just want to show you two memes separated by exactly 10 years. So this is a lolcat from 2010 saying the line from Dune, the book, I are Dune Cat, I control the spice, I control the universe, which is basically the plot of Dune. And Elon Musk, who's likely a Dune fan and an avid meme lover, but he's more of a shitposter at this point, who controls the memes, controls the universe. And he's not wrong, but it definitely is something along the terms of trolling when it comes from Elon in that case. But that is something that I think is important to understand because memes themselves control our environment. All right, so I'm going to bring up 3 specific case studies. Okay, so using these frameworks, let's just review really quick. So there's a framework that we're going to be using for the next several case studies that I think is really important to understand. 1, excavation, layering. Every meme not only has layers of meaning, but it also has lateral meaning as well. It's culturally attached to something else. A meme literacy person, someone with good amounts of meme literacy, can interpret this internally. It becomes an instinct. And so it's just like media literacy. Media literacy itself teaches us to be skeptical. That means to be resilient, to kind of like see something and don't immediately expect that to be true. If you walk into any media type of situation and have that resiliency and that persistence right off the bat, you're going to have a lot more fortitude than other people who just interpret something as real. So that's a media literacy aspect of understanding that. Layering is important because unlike some media literacies in which the referent is direct, usually referred to, or you could diagnose it through the author, the background, and so forth, meme literacies often disguise their referent by many, many layers, which require a lot of literacy to acknowledge. Last time we used a dog whistle meme that had buried enough layers that you'd have to Google it to understand it or to see beyond it. And sometimes reverse image searches work, sometimes just knowledge works, and many times the idea of a meme is to not know it. We showed an image last time of dead plants that referred directly to shoes. And it's like, well, how are they shoes if they're dead plants? But it's, what are those? And it refers to it. So the layering there is fantastic. So that's a media archaeological aspect of meme excavation. So the next 3 case studies are going to be through that type of breakdown. So I'm going to be using a very overarching theme for that first, and then 2 specific case studies. So the first one, a rapid fire meme. The cakes. So the internet is cake. This is a very fast meme. This meme is still going on, I think, right now. But I think I like this so much because it fulfills my favorite idea of archaeological approaches in general. And as a media archaeologist and somebody who has done archaeology and taught courses in Rome, layers are always one of my aspects of like understanding reality. When I did a tour in Rome, oftentimes the archaeologists who give the tours will say something like, remember Rome is like a lasagna where you have to layer, see all the layers that get you to a certain point. And so this is a literal translation of memes or layers. Okay, so the cake is a stand-in for reality. So this is the uncanniness. So if you haven't seen this video, it is quite uncanny. Everything you see looks real until it's cut in half, which is a trend that's been going on since 2016, and Taylor Lorenz has written about it. But it does allow us to understand how we become us. Just like you heard, if you could hear that GIF earlier, or you heard Cardi B's voice in your head telling you about coronavirus, that is the type of uncanny nature it's supposed to make you feel. In other words, something's not right. And that is a part of memetics that I think is very new. I'm going to be using a term called meme magic with a K through parts of this. A meme magic is the idea of manifesting a meme into physical spaces. I mean, this is a discussion we could have in different spaces. Josh and I have had Mitch Horowitz on our Digital Void Salon series. And I think it's important for us to discuss magic in general or the occult, but we can also understand that memes are pertinent to this discussion because memes concretize a reality into an image, but we could also concretize that image into reality. We could take that in both directions. So the cake meme is one of my favorites because it makes us question reality in general. Like just what, if everything looks real, but it's a cake inside, What is reality? So two of my favorite takeaways from this is Moses splitting the cake, which is just to tell you how much I love that one. It's because in my meme literacy courses, I have a meme literacy course that I used to teach. I use the idea of the Bible as using memes to help transfer it. And that's a longer discussion that we can get into at another point. But oftentimes a lot of the biblical stories were reduced so they were more portable because it was an oral culture. And in order to do that, you have to convert them into things that are portable and expandable. So I think that's just a very obvious take on like what a meme could be. And then my favorite cow is always questioning some sort of existential being and it's wondering, am I a cake? So it goes to my favorite memes. And I'm going to show them in order of this cake etymology as it grows. So this is an excavation in reverse. We're going to go to the top layer. And by going to the top layer, you're going to actually see the bottom layer. Wait, this is the wait, it's all blank meme. And it's basically an astronaut realizing some overall universal truth. And then the astronaut behind him being like, it always has been. So wait, it's all cake, always has been. Which of course is also a cake. So you can see it's like, what is reality? And there it is. That's what it comes down to. Wait, it's all shadows on a cave wall? Always has been. So to do a little tangent here, this is all Plato's allegory. It's the cave, all right? It all comes back to just a singular story. When we talk about memes, we're talking about a word, mimesis, that comes from the ancient Greek, meaning replicable, reproducible. And that type of thing is always around because we know that this is part of just human behavior. So reality itself is constructed by meaning, and sense making and meaning are important to understand because we make sense by bringing our realities to us. And if you don't know Plato's allegory, it's the beginning of how we interpret reality in general and why we each have our own subjective reality, but we're all part of an objective construct known as, that's physics. But the subjective realities are how we interpret life, how we interpret things around us. The philosopher Daniel Dennett asserts that a human mind, it is itself an artifact created when memes restructure human brains to make it a better habitat for memes, which is kind of true, but that's along the same exact line that we always say when we say no, all words are made up and the brain named itself. That's all true. I mean, these are just platitudes that are like, yeah, they're true. Every word is made up at some point, and so are memes. So now, case study number one, I'm going to show you a manifestation meme. So this manifestation meme is just very recent. It hasn't happened or has happened so far. I believe this will play for you all. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. So if that didn't play for you all, I'll go to the next slide. A young woman, STFU Samantha, on TikTok, which by the way is the newest meme factory, has used the TikTok algorithm to kind of mess with our understanding of how we interpret memes. So the TikTok algorithm, for those of you who have TikTok or don't, everybody's algorithm is different. Your recommendation system on TikTok is because it, how do I explain this? It eats everything on your phone, which is obtrusive, but so do all the other apps. So don't think it's TikTok. Facebook does this to the 10th power. It eats the data. So it sees the words you're typing in iMessage, it sees the stuff you've kept in your notebook, it sees all your browser history. And when it does that, it creates a recommendation for what you should be looking at on social media. That's media literacy or digital media literacies, understanding that the systems themselves are operating because they're feeding back us to ourselves. They basically take that. Weird part about that, and an accidental outcome of having that feedback loop is confirmation biases. Echo chambers, a media literacy term, is important to understand here. An echo chamber is when you've fed back enough of your understanding of something that you're basically consuming only things that you agree with. That's an echo chamber. If eventually you start using the web enough, you start only seeing things that actually confirm your biases that are already pre-built into you. We should identify and check what our biases are consistently. Try to find out what is making us make decisions or where we make snap judgments. If you ever come to find yourself as thinking something before you've thought it, that's a bias. That's a bias that's inside your system. But when you're using TikTok, and for those of you who haven't kept up with TikTok, which I'm assuming the majority of you, TikTok over the last couple of months has actually had like these very weird subgenres of TikTok, from alt TikTok, corporate TikTok, weird TikTok. It's basically imitating Twitter, but in this very strange way. So this young woman, STFU Samantha, made this video and said, if this is on your FYP, your For You page, that's your front page, congratulations, you've been chosen. Remember the date, August 27th, it's important. And then memes appeared almost instantly about this. Because what is happening? What is happening on August 27th? What does she know? This is called manifestation. This is meme magic. This is the ability for her to create an event and people make the event actually happen. Because we're not in August 27th yet, I can't tell you what happens, but I'm going to tell you nothing will happen. And the reason nothing will happen is because it's not real. She made it up. She used meme magic to do it. So Taylor Lorenz, who I have linked at the end of this presentation, and just as a quick note, I will be sharing, Josh and I will share this presentation with you all in the links. And when we finish it, it takes us 2 to 3 days to add the links into it. So it's like each part of the bottom has the ability for you to have like extra information. So you'll be able to interact with this slideshow as well. And so you'll have the links that lead you to these actual documents. So you can actually find the origins yourself and you can explore them. But Taylor Lorenz is one of our linkables at the end. Taylor Lorenz works for the New York Times on the internet beat. And so her job, and she's really phenomenal at it, is to find these stories, report on them, and actually diagnose them so we can understand them much more. And it's really important. She takes from a very journalistic standpoint. The debunk is important. Taylor Lorenz writes, other people had posted about August 27th bid before her. It's sort of unclear. In other words, just like when somebody hears the word Doge in 2005 and then somehow says it, you may have had that earworm. It's phraseology. You may accidentally hear something from a long time ago and then say it thinking it's yours. Your memory acts like that. But hers was one of the main ones to blow up. She, like everyone else, just did it as a joke or a troll, basically. She said the comment, she just wanted to make a weird video. So here's her comment saying, I literally had no idea that it'd blow up like that. I thought their just goal was to make a weird video. And she's like, dead, whatever. And it happens. This actually does happen. And so this is so again, each of these explanations are small frameworks to help you understand that each of these examples have this media archaeological framework that we as meme literacy people kind of want to do. You want to look further than just interpreting it. And you never want to fall into the trend of excitement. In other words, you never want to get into that space where you're like believing instantly, because that, to be very honest, I think the pandemic and our very online nature of what's going on right now, of us being digital and speaking, like we're doing a virtual thing now, as would preferably be in a physical space. And to keep everyone healthy, we're doing this virtually. So we're doing our best to keep everyone physically healthy by not sharing germs, and also mentally healthy by diagnosing media literacy pieces. And so but the problem with that is we're always online. This two-dimensional screen and this access to everything that's ever basically happened gives us this inability to kind of check the objective world around us. Traditionally, we would step outside, interact with friends, talk to them about it. And some of our friends would be like, ugh, you know, you get that Chrissy Teigen face or that emoji. It's like, ugh. You kind of get the, dude, that is kind of not right, or it's kind of effed up, or please don't believe that. But when you're only insular and only communicating with your digital communities, it becomes concretized. That's how memes are made too. It's codification and concretization, taking a meaning, making it real. So I'm about to show you a fairly disturbing meme. It's took place in approximately 1 full day, maybe 3 full days total. And it's a disturbing meme, and it was already debunked. And I just want to preface this by saying, what you're about to see is an example of this specific meme, and you're about to see an actual website glitch that was taken as conspiracy theory, but I'm going to forefront it by showing you where it comes from. So it's important for you to understand that it's a conspiracy from beginning to end. The Wayfair conspiracy. So Wayfair is not human trafficking, okay? They are not. I'm not going to validate it with a maybe or a skeptical. They're just not. And they are a company that sells furniture that's just random furniture. I don't know how to explain it. It's like stuff that it's like a hit or miss type of site, to be honest with you. If I'm going to criticize them at all, you could buy one thing that's just like, oh my God, amazing. Another thing that's like, you put it together and it just falls. You know, I can't explain like Wayfair's stance on what it is. Posted on July 9th in our conspiracy. That's a subreddit for conspiracies. Let me say it again, for conspiracies, okay? Somebody posted this possibility of a conspiracy that the cabinets, because they were named after human names, were priced at an exorbitant rate because they carried the human in them, okay? I'm gonna continue speaking in this tone to let you remember that this is a conspiracy, that this is made up, okay? But you get into this and you get your mindset on it, and it's an onboarding process that's very scary. What I mean by onboarding is that this is actually a subset of the Pizzagate conspiracy, which is now a subset of QAnon. And we're not getting into QAnon here. You could ask questions about it if you'd like, but that is an massive scale online conspiracy theory that is now delving itself into very vulnerable people. Before the pandemic started, many people who do the work I do, which is research on memes in the far right and extremism, immediately had a weird feeling. We were like, uh-oh, what if this very online moment caused people to just fall into these rabbit holes much further? Like, what if this is the thing that's actually the moment everybody's been waiting for to radicalize vulnerable young people into these crazy thoughts? And I've been now in the last week, like these last two examples are like 2 weeks old. Just in the last week, we see like these extremely fast radicalization rabbit hole tools. So I'm going to show you another video. I'm not sure if it's going to play, but I just want you to see the glitch. So the problem was a glitch. So there's a glitch on Wayfair's website, and you could actually see it happen in this video. So it's important to watch it because it actually shows the glitch in real time. Let's see if it plays.
$6.99. So you go on Wayfair, right? Look at this pillow. Just a regular ass pillow, $46.99. Now, if they weren't sex trafficking, why the fuck is the price of a pillow for a name Veronica $10,000 from $46.99?
Show another name.
Let's look up.
So as soon as she types the letter, the instant the first letter is presented, it immediately jumps that price. And you can actually see the glitch on screen. If you can't see it, the decimal's wrong. So instead of adding $10 to the price for the customization, it added it to the front of the number, which is, you know, it's a Wayfair glitch. Honestly, it's like inventory glitch that should have been fixed. But that inventory glitch creates confirmation bias. In other words, somewhere deep down, you might actually already believe that there's nefarious acts going on, and anything that confirms that becomes evidence of that. I basically just defined conspiracy. Now, something that we have to understand is that the role of platforms here is really important. Remember we talked earlier about Facebook's ads with the upside down triangle? So the reason it became so prominent and the reason you search for it and all you see is the upside down triangle is because Facebook removed those posts 24 hours after they were originally posted because it promoted hate speech. It promoted hate speech in the form of using an icon, the upside down triangle, as hate. It was misappropriating an actual symbol. It was taking a Holocaust symbol and making it part of a Trump campaign ad. So it was removed. The question then becomes, is the removal part of the process? Now, it probably wasn't in this case, but in the case of Brad Parscale, he has evidence. There's evidence, and Andrew Morantz wrote about it, that sometimes he makes posts specifically to have them taken down, because if they're taken down, he could claim censorship. It could be part of the plan. Now, in this case, it's not part of the plan. TikTok did its best to remove these videos. But what do you think happened? When the trust and safety team sees a video of danger, this is a dangerous video, they take down the video, and what occurs? Inflammation, and it throws the conspiracy into hyperdrive. People are like, well, why did they take it down? What are we missing? Why can't they be telling us about these things? And so this is the type of dangerous content that we try to keep away from. So again, why we need journalists, why we need people covering this, why we need meme literacy, why we need to have this discussion. And as I reach the conclusion here, I want you to understand that this is something that is extremely important to all of us here, that we help you understand that journalism, education, thinking, critical thinking, all of these things are important to understand the reality behind these things. Meme literacy, like media literacy, have to grapple with confirmation biases that are pervasive. Ben Collins, who's on the quote dystopia beat at NBC, I can't believe I have to do this, but there's a thorough debunk of the QAnon Wayfair conspiracy theory since it's pervasive on civilian parts of the internet. And I like that terminology. Civilian is a word for people who aren't very online, which is a term that I use a lot for myself. That's people who are so online so often that you kind of speak a different language or you speak internet fluently. And by speaking internet fluently, you don't have to be explained a lot of these things. You just sort of know them, especially since a lot of the internet language is distributed via visuals. And so this is, Rachel Greenspan does a phenomenal article about it for Insider. Wayfair is not selling human children. It's a mega viral conspiracy. Do you know she uses the term mega too, which is a little scary. Mega viral conspiracy theory sounded similar to Pizzagate, and that's because it is. I debunked the unfounded claim here and explained its connections to QAnon. So it's important for us to read that. So in conclusion, I'm going to give you a couple takeaways, some things that we have to think about, and then we can go on to Q&A. And I think it's important to have a little bit of a discussion about it because this was a lot to take in, as it was with our last meme literacy talk. Memes to discuss these is a lot. It's exhausting. When I teach my class, usually by the end of class, it's usually 2 hours per session. The students in it are just like, whew, that was a lot to consume. And it is a lot to consume because it's a lot of visuals that we have to not watch as two-dimensional. We have to read them as books. And people will say to you when you're talking about meme literacies, like, oh, but they're just funny images. And you say, sometimes memes take hours to talk about. And it's because to talk about them means that you have to actually talk about all the cultural reference, every piece that's attached to it, and what it means, not just to the memes, but to those who are most vulnerable. And I mean that in multiple senses, not just people vulnerable as in young men who are very online and don't really have the educational guidance, but vulnerable as in the people we forget, access points. People, like even memes, don't have the ability for people who are hearing impaired to access them. So how do we talk to those people? How do we speak to people, Black people and people of color who are targeted by algorithms and AI? Like, how do we understand these things without talking about them? If we're not speaking about these things, then people just won't. So we have to bring them up. So here's my points that I'm going to be talking about. 1, identify biases, patience, pause, and reflexivity. So in other words, don't react. I know this is so hard, and this is the advice that I give in almost every situation. Your best bet is to see something and have patience. Literally take a second. And I know that's comes from a point of privilege too. It's like saying not all of us have time to have patience, but if you have that time, you pause and breathe, because giving yourself the ability to breathe, and when people always say, oh, you should breathe a few seconds, they mean that. Breathing is an involuntary reflex, so we don't think about it. But when you stop and you think about breathing for a second, it actually helps you open your mind just slightly. Reflexivity is what you learn in cultural studies, which is the ability to understand other people's opinions. Somebody got to where they are somehow. So instead of immediately reacting and saying, F you and your stupid idea, which you might think, use reflexivity and see how they got to now and see if you can figure out a way to have a conversation and move forward. Unless, of course, it's obviously extremely violent, in which case you have to figure out how to mitigate or get out of that situation immediately. Recognize our innate visual instincts. Compare that to the visual marketplaces. So we talked about Pepsi earlier, how you'll never probably unsee the chubby man now when you see the Pepsi logo. Our visual instincts are better than you will ever imagine. Here's a link, and I'm going to show it to you in a few seconds too. Can'tunsee.space is a site for UX and UI. When you go there, it's a quiz. It gives you points. It's a game, and they've gamified this experience. They show you 2 identical images, which I'll show you in a bit, that are things you see every day, but one of them slightly wrong. And you have to pick the one that you know is right, or which one you feel is what they put is most correct. And the reason they do that is because it helps you see that you're already innately attuned to certain graphical design elements. And I think that's very true. And it's a great site. And it is amazing how many I didn't get right. Consider the efficacy of participation. Now, this is a tough one. I left this to the end because I really want to speak about this in terms of what this means in our greater discourse. And I think it's important for us to know about like how to act with memes. And originally I was going to have this as part of our meme discussion, how to reappropriate memes, but I also think it's important that we understand that memes themselves they don't work the way we want them to all the time. And they actually reduce in a way that actually turns off the value of what is important. So in terms of like allyship or stances or the idea of where you can help people that are vulnerable, you have to understand that everything comes to that through the long line of the struggle and recognition of violence, pain, and the body. And so originally I was going to use some Breonna Taylor memes, and I'm just going to show you them, but I'm going to talk to you about what Kate Young says about them, which I think is important. So these memes are creative. I mean, that's the best way to think about them. These memes are Rickrolls, old memes from way in the past. Rickroll is a bait and switch, and is when you try to put a link and at the end of it you get Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up song. So this meme developed recently to the Epstein didn't commit suicide meme. And it was basically an inane quote that would end with somebody saying a bit. And so this bit talks about the real and unfortunate situation that Breonna Taylor has not yet had her justice from being killed by these cops, and they're back on duty. And it's really a terrible part of injustice that we don't understand. So these memes are bringing light to this. Kate Young brought up a point that said, memes also do a disservice to this and Breonna Taylor's life and her death. And by reducing them down to these shareables, we actually do something kind of violent in its own sense. We make them a competition. Who can make the best bait and switch? Who can make the best type of creative meme? And then it becomes the meaning gets depowered. And in depowering that meaning, we start losing the meaning of the justice that's necessary for Breonna Taylor, and we start looking at who's made a better bait and switch meme. Now, when asked by NPR the other day, which we'll have a link in the thing when you could have it, she was asked, okay, but don't memes also give people who have never seen, or people who've never heard of Breonna Taylor or know about the situation, don't memes also give us that ability to bring light to that? Isn't it an illumination process as well? And her answer was, yeah, it does. So I think I agree with her stance by saying we can hold both truths to be in our head at once. That memes are both very good and memes are also very bad. That they could be the same thing simultaneously. That's what makes us media and meme literate. A good media literacy person can use two conflicting ideas in your head at the exact same moment to diagnose and analyze visual imagery while also thinking about the other parts that are operating at once. It's a skill, it's something you have to learn, but as things go on, it's important to recognize that. So remember to consider the efficacy of participation. That is tough, like it is really, really difficult. This is actual advice from learning a different language. Whenever I was learning like Italian or Spanish, they always say, try to make Italian part of your everyday vocabulary. You're like, with who? But it's when you're trying to learn a new language, you should try to make the vocabulary part of your everyday language. You should try to talk about it as much as possible. When you're taking your GREs, you should try to increase your vocabulary by speaking about some of those big words, those really, really terrible words that you're just like, man, I hope I use these after the GRE. You should learn to have the vocabulary and speak about them in public. Memes are everywhere and we should not reduce them. We should make sure they're not taken as, my biggest criticism that I get as a meme scholar is, oh, those funny images. And I'm just like, or a meme? I'm like, oh, here we go. In terms of what it is it's a tough balance to explain that memes are important, but I think we're coming to a point in history where people are recognizing them as more important. And finally, fortitude, confidence, and education. If you're confused, look it up. I mean, I cannot stress that enough, is that how much of learning is the effort of learning, is that you actually can't just take everything for granted. You just can't say, I get it and move away from it. You actually have to engage with the subject. And so these to me are how do we increase meme literacies? And then I'm going to open it to Q&A in 2 or 3 seconds. Let me just show you a few examples quick. One, I'm not going to show this right now, but it'll be in the links for later. This is from yesterday, the trailer for Feels Good Man, the film about Pepe the Frog. And it's actually a beautiful trailer and potentially will be a beautiful documentary about Pepe's rise in 2004 to its reappropriation from the far right to its reappropriation in the Far East in Hong Kong as a symbol of hope. And that is why I still, like you can see Pepe in the background, that is why we still try to make this happen, is because Matt Fury doesn't want Pepe to be evil. It's just not, it's not his thing. I don't think any creator wants their object to be evil. Like that's not their goal. So that's a really good trailer out. This is the can't unsee .space. This is the game. This is the tutorial, and you can actually see just by looking at it that number 2 is likely right, just because you're used to these images. So you get points for identifying what you can't unsee. And finally, before we go to questions, I don't know why that number's in the corner, it's my mistake. These are some links that I really, really think you should follow. Rabbit Hole Podcast, to me, that was in the last year, the most informative 4 hours ever. Kevin Roos of the NY Times basically synthesized his large scale articles into a diagnosis of the rabbit hole, how you fall into rabbit holes on the internet. You should follow people that cover the internet, Ben Collins, Brandy Zadrovny, and Taylor Lorenz, and you should follow cultural critic Kate Young. These are people that absolutely matter, and you should absolutely get involved and educate yourselves on Black Lives Matter and donate. And so these are really important to us. So let's go to, well, first I want to say thank you before questions. These are our partners. You should follow all of them as well. I think it's really important, and follow us. And thank you so much for taking your time today to learn about some of the deeper nuances of those memes. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and then we're going to go to Q&A in the chat. So if you have any questions. So if anybody has any questions, now would be the time to ask anything, literally anything that you may have. And if you don't have questions, then that's good. That means I did my job. Anybody have any questions? I'll give you a few seconds to come up there. And yes, we are recording this. We're going to have, we're going to be able to provide you the video afterward. Oh, thank you, Ned. We're going to provide not only the video afterward, and thank you so much for being here, but we're also going to provide resources. And what I mean by resources, we usually share the deck, the entire interactive deck. And inside that deck, when you get the link, you're going to have the ability to see some of the things that I spoke about, so you get a little more in-depth information about them. So if I showed you a video, sometimes I'll give like links to other articles that are out there. And I think that's actually important to become more meme literate. And then you should also follow us on there. And we'll also, Josh mentioned just now, we'll create a page on digitalvoid.media. That's our site dedicated to resources. Actually, I think that's a really good thing, because resources of this subject are extremely helpful in terms of just, this is my big thing is like, how do you talk to your children about memes? How do children talk to their parents about memes? How do we have these discussions? One of the things about teaching civic engagement is to understand that we communicate, we talk, and our vocabulary and our language of talking to each other is hard. It's not something that you would just assume is something that you could breach that subject. So I think a resources page or a vocabulary is important to create fortitude as well. Maya asks, how do companies like TikTok stay afloat on memes for safety and enforcement? That's a really good question. That's a question about trust and safety. So many of our platforms, from TikTok to Facebook to Twitter, have a department known as trust and safety. And trust and safety, in theory, is a department designed specifically to do that. Not only to stay afloat on memes, but to stay ahead of them. And that's really hard to do. The teams are usually made up of very fast-moving moderators. The moderators are people that kind of see the information flows before they happen. Facebook has 32,000 people doing that. They are unfortunately probably lower paid, and they see things that, some of the more deeper things that we didn't get into in this talk is when I say we can't unsee things. And last talk we did, I talked about a site called 4chan, and I tell people never ever go to it. I mean that seriously. You can't unsee things. There are still images that haunt my brain that I've seen that I can't get out. So a lot of these trust and safety teams see things much different and worse than what we do. Now, as far as memes, that's where people like Parscale exploit this. Because if you're not up to date, or as your term afloat on memes, like you could skirt those meanings. You could put in dog whistles without people even seeing it at all. And when people don't know that they can't see it, then they are able to skirt the trust and safety teams. And so those types of things are there. Now, how do they do it? Not easily. They do it through people like you and me, people who become very efficient at reading media. And that's how all platforms have them. I don't think all platforms equally do a good job of enforcing that, though. That's just my personal opinion. From Diane, the incredible fungibility of memes, their enormous vulnerability to be co-opted, most problematically by hostile, dangerous people, makes memes seem to be a form of storytelling one ought to avoid creating at all. Wow, that's great. Is that a fair assessment? If not, are there ways that we create or protect memes and that premise to be really effective? Diane, that is literally every day of my life I ask that question. You are asking questions. That's what never leaves my head. There is my competing thoughts, and my competing thoughts are as follows. Should we just not participate ever in this? Wouldn't we be better off? Or two, are memes delivery methods for deeper understanding of meaning that can help us actually be a better social society and move towards social justice? To answer first one, you can create them and you should create them because it's a form of participation in a digital space, but also understand your power. And I think that's the part of the privilege that I think is really important, is to understand how much power we have in creating memes. They are a form of storytelling. I absolutely love that you say it that way, because that's why I brought up Plato in this, is that memes are a form of storytelling of reality, or a compression of reality, or reduction of reality into it. I like the way you wrote that one ought to avoid creating it all. Yeah, I mean, if you want to stay out of it, I don't make memes. I don't. Could I? Sure, I could be a meme lord. I could be an edgelord. That's the terms for meme page operators. I know enough of how to speak in memes to make my own. I don't. Not getting into it in this discussion here, but I made a meme years ago and is still around to this day. And it's one of those things where I understood like how much power you could use for a meme. So yeah, that's a personal choice. And it's there. And can we create or protect memes to the promise to be really effective? Yeah, that's what we're like. The best way to say it is I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate everyone being here, because I hope that's the power we could get from learning how to speak memes. My goal is that we don't reduce people's pain and suffering to memetics, but I also hope that we can embed the way that the right embeds dog whistles. Maybe they can embed social justice into memes and try to get that out there. I believe that's possible. If you look at TikTok, TikTok has doctors that use the platform, OBGYNs, who have been able to help young women have the talk with their parents, because they've been using the platform to create an informational space that's comfortable, inclusive, and educational. And that type of thing is a meme, so to speak, because it's on TikTok. And it actually has helped young people become more confident in their speech. So it is possible. It's just, I think it's the answer is a term of content strategy that has to be deployed. And I think more understanding means better deployment. And yes, Amy, you're right. And or limiting consumption of social media. And I think that's the big problem we're having now, which is with us being always online. Like if we're always online, it's hard to have that limiting of consumption of social media, especially when we're saying everybody's got to work in there. You know, we've got to do that. Bree asks, if your algorithms create a specialized echo chamber, how can the information debunking trolls and dog whistles be widely spread? And that's the trick. That's a really, really great question. That's an algorithm exploit. That is something that's a cultural exploit. So when, I guess I didn't fully diagnose this in the Trump meme back on the upside down triangles, they made 88 versions of that specific meme. So that's a lot. To give you a number that's going to be overwhelming, in the 2016 election, Team Trump made 5.9 million variations of a meme, like literally 5.9 variations of a memes for the election, where Hillary Clinton's campaign made 60,000. I'm just going to give you an example of how big numbers are, just so you can understand that. 1,000 seconds is approximately 11, 12 minutes or so. 1 million seconds is 11 days. So it's, when you talk about 5.9 million variations to 60,000, you're talking about every type of algorithm are targeting. They are spending money like you can't imagine. I'm pretty sure it's like 60% of their budget is just Facebook algorithm data. They're specially targeting. It's an incredible, horrific process. And Diane, yes, absolutely. I will share those links. I actually did create a content strategy that I wanted to share that would be part of like a TikTok type of thing, because to go back to your thing is that a content strategy, look, like platforms don't want less people on them. So limiting of consumption of social media is hurtful to platforms, and they don't like that. So whenever I'm doing these types of talks, like as a digital media expert, it's never really helpful for my algorithm or my promotion to be like, well, just get off Facebook. That hurts Facebook and me, because then people won't do this thing. So the answer isn't, I mean, just to be really human here, yeah, the answer is go outside and just stop doing all this, but that's not the real answer. The real answer is create content that's helpful, pro-social, I like you say, like things that are more social justice oriented, participate in a way that's helpful. And yes, as part of our resource sheet, I will share some of the OB content that has been really, really effective for young women, because it is, in my opinion, educational and important, and that's something that we could do. And back to Bree's question, just real quick, a lot of this has to do with money, and that's why these campaigns always raise so much money, is that they're spending it wildly. Like they're spending it to an extent that we can't think about. And so it's, I really do believe that if we were able to crowdsource or negotiate a collective fund to create a meme campaign that helps debunk these things, maybe it'll work. But remember, content strategy is hard and has a higher fail rate than a success rate. But really, when you're deprogramming somebody or helping them understand these topics, it does cost in the end. Like if you were able to, that's an ethical question or a moral question. So I'm just going to give another second. Oh, here we go. Susan asks, how do meme makers gauge the success of a specific creation? That's a really great question. So the people that are known as meme lords or edgelords know that they have to codify their experiences. What most people don't know about meme lords and edgelords is there's back channels. A lot of memers, you can actually watch this in the movie The American Meme on Netflix. And Josh, I'm sorry to be giving you all these references that we'll have to make on the reference page. In The American Meme, they explain that the back channels are places where meme creators go, like Sunny Side Up and F. Jerry and a whole bunch of different meme makers, that they go in the back channel and they share memes and to see if they're going to like operate well together. And that's because meme makers know that if people don't share them, they don't work. They don't actually do anything. So they have to make sure that people are going to share them. So they codify it first, then share it. Works a little bit backwards from 4chan. 4chan is a meme factory where they make a shitty meme, and then if it gets reposted up, it on its own gets created into a codification. It's a language making system. And those types of language making systems are basically how words are created. It takes a little bit longer. So there's corporate memes done through instant codification and back channels, and there's ground up memes or shit posts that become successful through the codification of language. Those are usually troll memes, and those are usually done to derail discourse. And so that's actually part of that. So memes are a distinctly important subject to kind of keep on diagnosing. Ooh, so that was a lot. Jared, how do you think the Trump campaign, Jared asks, how do you think the Trump campaign is going to use memes and the internet these next few months now that Brad Parscale was demoted? Wow, good question, Jared. I don't know. I have a feeling, and Jared probably knows that, or anybody knows that I've been railing against the Parscale techniques since 2017, but I also have this theory that Brad Parscale lost his oomph in 2017. I think a lot of what he did in 2016 was aided and abetted by Cambridge Analytica and that insane amount of data that they had. Without Cambridge Analytica in 2020, they have the less of the algorithmic targeting that they wanted. And so Brad Parscale was really riding on steam basically his whole life. He's been kind of a charlatan forever. And so when he has no real data to work with, he's just a shit poster. So I think how they're going to do it is going to be more concretized. In other words, more targeted. And that's why, I almost grabbed the mic and almost threw my computer. And that is why you're going to see a lot more, how do I put this in the most inane way? You're going to see Trump get crazier. You're going to see him say things that are a little more insane and crazy, because what they're looking for is testing in real time instead of doing digital beta testing or A/B tests. So when I say the word variations for Bree, when she was asking like how the algorithms work, they target down different algorithmic tubes, and that's called A/B testing. Sometimes they'll send two down the same, and which one performs better, they just eliminate the one that doesn't work. I think you're going to see a little less A/B testing without Brad Parscale, and I think you're going to see a little bit more aggressive behavior instead. So that instead of A/B testing on the internet, they're going to A/B test in real life. So for example, real life, the Trump administration said that they were going to deport students if they weren't taking in-class sessions. That's a crazy statement. That's insane. People in real life reacted to that, and that Harvard and Yale, I think, set up a lawsuit against the government. And in doing that, the Trump campaign reversed. That's a real life A/B test. Those are dangerous. And I know none of this is not dangerous, but like the danger of real life testing means real people get affected immediately, where memes don't affect people immediately. They affect people in their mind and then it sours them. So which one's worse? Probably both. I don't know. Just like we talked about earlier, when people get that stuff in their head, it creates poison. For months and months, they live in the poison in their brain, and that poison eventually causes them to act as bad actors, and then potentially create what I talked about earlier, confirmation bias. And that confirmation bias makes them even worse of a bad actor. I mean, it's a vicious cycle. Whew, okay, so there's no more questions. I'll let everybody go back to work, back to their Zoom meetings, and go enjoy their memes. So I really appreciate you all being here. I think we'll close down now. If you have more questions, you could always email or contact us. I'm at New and Digital on Twitter, and Josh is at Josh Chapdelaine. And you should follow at Civic Hall. And these are, and if you have any questions, you could add us, you can message us, you could follow us, I'll follow you back, and we could have a DM, or you could just email us. You could go to digitalvoid.media and find our email addresses. We really appreciate you being here, and we really thank Civic Hall and to endless amounts. Evelyn and Shanika, thank you so much for hosting us, and we really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, everybody.